freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round 3 recap for this week's Mexico Open. Joining me to break it all down, it's him. It's Greg DuCharme. Hello, Greg.
Rick, what is going on? Quite a tournament so far. I would say it's safe to say we've gotten what we hoped for, looking at the field at the beginning of this week.
Monday morning, it was 2 guys who odds makers said are likely to win this golf tournament. Wednesday evening, same story. And now Saturday evening, same story. Tony Finau, Jon Rahm at the top. We'll talk about those guys, Greg. We'll talk about it. That's our main event. That's the heavyweight bout. I got a couple of guys on the undercard that we need to speak about here first. And let's just start with Will Gordon. Potentially breaking out of a little bit of a slump here. His 2023 was not as good as his fall was, but he shot a 67 on Saturday, 4 under par, gets into 13 under and 6 shots off the lead.
Well, we know how important distance is on a golf course like this, and he's certainly taken advantage of it. You know, it's made some of these scoring holes, made the par 5s a little bit easier for him. And when you look at this card, that's what jumps off the page to me. This is a birdies on all 4 par 5s and the drivable par 4 7th, and that's it. Now, that's 5 birdies. His only bogey was at 17, but that's kind of the recipe. As we've watched the guys near the top of the leaderboard all week long, after each round, they've been able to take advantage of these holes. When we get to Finau and Rahm and Akshay later, they sprinkle in a couple of other little shots of magic or holes of magic, which has been the difference. Will wasn't able to do that today. And that's why he's a little bit farther back, but still a wonderful round of golf for him.
Are you having a little deja vu here, Greg? Last year, Jon Rahm, Tony Finau, Brandon Wu at the top of the leaderboard. This year, Jon Rahm, Tony Finau, Brandon Wu at the top of the leaderboard. Let's talk about Brandon. He goes 67, another 4 under round on Saturday. He made bogey on his first hole of the day right out of the gate, but other than that, it was blemish free, and he closed with another circle on 18, a hole that everyone was taking advantage of. So good for Brandon to be back into the mix here this time around.
Yeah, and again, you look at this scorecard, and it's very similar. He doesn't take advantage of 14, but takes advantage of the other par 3s, other par 5s rather, and number 7. And then added in a really nice, that kind of bonus putt at number 3 as well, which was a nice long putt that he made. But the thing that really stood out to me today about Brandon Wu was these short little wedge shots he hit. He hit a number off of the tight lies, albeit past Palom, but to some pretty tricky hole locations. And he was clipping them real nice and added another one on 18. So it was really fun to watch him in the short game area today. But all in all, there's something that seems to really click with him about this golf course. He hit the ball well today. Found the bottom of the cup on a number of putts. Although he didn't really, I wouldn't say he filled it up, but he putted solid the way that he needed to. So yeah, this was a nice clean round of golf for him, and I was most impressed by some of those little wedge shots.
Our final group on Sunday is going to be spectacular. We'll start with Akshay, Bhatia, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. Akshay tied the course record for, I don't know, couple minutes, right? 8 under 63 with 2 bogeys on the card, mind you, and a 30 on his inward 9 to match. Tony Finau did it last year. Brandon Wu did it last year. Somebody did it in round 1 this year. Who did it this year? Smotherman, that's right.
Yeah.
And Akshay got himself into the record books for just a moment. We'll talk about who broke that here shortly. But Akshay has been on everybody's radar for a really long time. There is no doubt about his talent, and now he is going to be staring down 2 of the game's biggest stars on Sunday.
And that is going to be really cool to watch. By the way, don't count him out. I was looking at his results on the PGA Tour so far this year, And there have been 6 events where he's played a Sunday round, and 5 of them have been in the 60s. So he's not afraid of Sunday. Now, that being said, he hasn't been in this position on Sunday. He hasn't been in a final group on Sunday, and certainly not with Jon Rahm and Tony Finau alongside of him. So I'm very curious to see what we get. Are we going to get an Akshay Bhatia who goes and plays like he's got nothing to lose? He should play that way because he doesn't have anything to lose. Nobody's expecting Akshay to be the guy standing out on top with Tony Finau and Jon Rahm in the final group. But he's got the game to do it, and you saw it today. I mean, he took advantage of all those holes, the 4 par 5s and number 7 as well, just like everybody else near the top of this leaderboard. But he was able to add in a couple of really nice putts at 2 and 3, hit a couple of really high quality shots at 15 and 16 as well. So this was a special day for Akshay, and it's setting up for a day he'll likely never forget tomorrow.
No, probably not, because he's going to be going up against Tony Finau and Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm, the pre-tournament favorite, the number 1 player in the world, our reigning Masters champion, our Mexico Open defending champion, was I would say flawless, but I guess he made par on 18, which is losing strokes to the field. But Jon Rahm shot a 10 under 61, which started with going out in 29, birdieing 12, 13, and 14, birdieing 17, gets a little unlucky with his drive into the bunker on 18. He just kind of has to knock it out of there. But I just cannot believe how often Jon Rahm gets to the top of a field of 140 golfers.
Yeah, it's absolutely remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. And he's so good that when you start playing, the more golf you play, if we played 90 round tournaments on the PGA Tour, 90 hole events, I mean, if there were 5 round tournaments, I think Jon Rahm might win every single one of them.
He really might.
It's like the longer he goes, he just keeps on shooting, and eventually they start to fall. And today was that day. Now, in both round 1 and round 2, he made some mistakes. Notably at round 2, hits it in the water at 9, makes bogey at 10 right after that. Made it, a couple of mistakes there in that round. And in round 1, he had a couple opportunities from just short of the green with some kind of basic chip shots. He wasn't able to convert on, or wasn't able to give himself a birdie putt on a few of those par 5s. But today was the day we've kind of been waiting for, where he cleaned up all the mistakes and everything went in. I mean, he set a personal record for distance of. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here, but distance of feet of putts made. I mean, how
distance of putts in feet. I don't know.
Yeah.
We know
feet of putts made. Right? He made 156 feet of putts today. 156.
That's sick.
Now it's really good. So he gains over 3.3 shots putting to the field. That was somehow second today, but he was hooping it from everywhere.
The course record that was 63 was obviously obliterated. 61 now, that mark. Jon Rahm, it's the expectations coming into an event at plus 285, coming into an event, Greg, where this field is, very weak by most PGA Tour standards, but still doing this. It's just, he seems to be immune to almost everything, right? He's immune to pressure. He's immune to expectation. It's so fun to watch.
He has learned. He's learned, which is what I love watching, right? He's learned to channel the frustration. And Kyle's talked about this a lot, where, and everybody in the golf industry has. Jon Rahm's kind of hot-headedness or emotion, if you will, is something that makes him Jon Rahm, but also has cost him in the past. And it seems like he's figured out this ability to channel it and use it for good, right? The 4-putt on the very first green at Augusta National doesn't derail him at all. It sends him in a positive direction. He ends up winning the Masters. You look at yesterday's round where he's 3 under through his first 7 holes and gives it all back on 9 and 10. And after that, he makes 3 birdies in his next 4 holes and ends up finishing the round at 3 under par. And then all of a sudden today comes out with a clear head, but he really didn't do anything different, right? It wasn't like he just decided, all right, I got to hit it at every flag today because I'm far back and I got to he didn't force it. He let it come to him and the putts started to go in. And that's ultimately the difference. I mean, he stuffed one on, what was it, on maybe on 4. I think he had a really good iron shot in there. But other than that, he's making 25 footers and taking advantage of par 5s. So it was really quite easy in a way, but it was easy because the putts were falling. And if they don't fall, this is a ho-hum 65. But instead they do, and all of a sudden he turns it into a 61. And really, I mean, 2 of the better opportunities he had for birdie on non-par 5s and not number 7 was 15 and 16, and he missed both of those. That was like a 12-footer and about an 8-footer on those 2 holes. 2 of the better opportunities he had for the day. So I loved watching that aspect. The fact that he didn't force it and was able to get 61 out of the round is just, it's really impressive.
Yeah, you mentioned it. He the shot you're referencing was on number 4. He hit it to 22 inches, obviously cleaned that up for birdie. Now, Jon Rahm goes 67, 68, 61, and believe it or not, is 2 shots off the lead because Tony Finau got it going on his second 9. Hunky Tony was only 2 under when he made the turn. He was only 2 under, Greg, through 11, and scoring was very, very good today. Jon Rahm was applying a lot of pressure. Everybody was flying around, moving up the board. Jon Rahm took the lead at one point. Tony Finau finished with a flurry. Birdies on 12, 13, 14, 16, and 18. He gave one back at 17. But that was really, to me, a great response to everything else that was going on around him.
Now, remember with Jon Rahm, we talked about 156 feet of putts made. For Tony Finau today, it was 35. Now, he lost to Jon Rahm by 4 shots and made 120 feet less of putts made. It just tells you how well he's hitting the ball. I mean, he has the ball on a string right now and has for all 3 days. You could argue he has all year long. Maybe a little better with the driver this week than it's been this year. But as far as his iron play is concerned, it's nothing different. And today, nothing went in, and he shot 65. And I think that's why we always lean towards the great ball strikers rather than the putters. Because days like this happen. You can have a great putting day and not make anything. There are a lot of variables that go into the ball eventually finding the bottom of the cup. It didn't at all for Tony Finau today, yet he walks away with a 2-shot lead. And I love what Tony's doing right now. He's staying calm, he's staying collected, taking advantage of the holes that he needs to. His short game has been really good when he's been on those par 5s, gotten it up and around the green and in 2 and been able to convert the birdies. He's done what he should all week long. And then he's been able to add in a couple of great shots. I mean, 16, there's something about that second shot that he just loves. He had another beauty in there today, hit a great shot in there in round 2 as well. So he's in a really good place right now. It's been fun to watch.
I think we might have talked about this before, where let's say Tony Finau wins the Mexico Open. And in 2 years, we look back and say, who won the 2023 Mexico Open? Oh, Tony Finau. And I think a lot of it will be, what a crappy win, right? Like this field that's got the third worst strength of field of the year, whatever. However, if he outduels Jon Rahm, number 1 player in the world, out of the fight, like strength of field should be like adjusted, like almost, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it should be
absolutely, Rick.
Bigger. It should be bigger than what people are going to remember this as.
I've had this feeling for years. If they had a Sunday top 10 element, who's in the top 10 in the field heading into Sunday, and what's that strength of field look like? Because the same is true with really strong fields. With some of the best players may not play well, and you get a little, less than event on Sunday. And look, should that take away from it? No. But when you beat Jon Rahm head to head down the stretch, that's different than this Mexico Open field. So I think it's a great point. I couldn't agree with it more. And this is the other thing you and I talked about last night. For Tony Finau, the quality of his wins, I think, can improve. But it doesn't feel like that's the Tony Finau battle. It feels like Tony Finau's battle is, what does he do in the moments? No matter who he's playing against, can Tony handle himself? And when he does, he can win. And he can close it out tomorrow if he plays the game he's been playing for the first 3 days. And I think he really figured out how to do that last year, and in through the Houston Open this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he, for the first time in real contention in 2023, does the way that he handled himself last year on Sundays, does that carry over into this year now that he's in contention again?
I like it. Well, we will look at the odds board, and I'll tell you, it's two guys mostly that are, again, taking up a lot of said oxygen from sportsbooks. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reactions.
The largest final round comeback in tour championship history. We're down to the final four.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
And we're back. All right, let's see that old odds board for the Mexico Open at the 3/4 point. Tony Finau, minus 120. Jon Rahm, plus 155. That's the majority of it. That's most of it. Again, Tony Finau is a 2-shot lead. Akshay Bhatia, the third man in that final group, 8-1. He will start 2 shots back. And then I will just lump in Brandon Wu here, 14-1. Greg, he's 3 shots back. No one else shorter than 125-1. 4 guys.
Yeah, and there's a good reason for it. I mean, you look at the quality of players up at the top, and just take Akshay out of it for a second, because he's kind of a wild card. We haven't seen him in this position before. We have no idea what we're going to get. So if you just take him out of it, it's highly unlikely that Jon Rahm and Tony Finau both lay an egg. And you have the 2 perennial favorites heading into the week sitting up on top, significantly farther ahead than anybody else, again, leaving Akshay out. So it's really hard to figure out a way or a path for a Brandon Wu or Will Gordon, a Smotherman, and any of those guys to make up enough ground. And again, I talked about it a lot earlier in the show. These 4 par 5s and number 7, and these are kind of. It almost makes this a par 67. I know that's
I'm not allowed to say that.
I know that, but they've done such a good job taking care of those holes this week. And so if you put par for them at 67, what do you have to do to catch them? If they do nothing special and just do what they should, and they make pars all over the place and add in the birdies on the par 5s and number 7, well, this thing becomes unreachable. It's not unreachable for Akshay, but it's unreachable for Will Gordon and Smotherman. And what's Brandon Wu set up to do? I don't mean to rhyme there, but what's he set up to do on a Sunday? I mean, is he really going to come from 3 back on Tony Finau if Tony Finau shoots 5 under? That's a heck of a round. So of course, one of these guys could stumble and you could get kind of, they don't take advantage of those holes. They miss a few short putts and have a little bit of struggle. But is another 63 out there for him? I think that, I know he did it last year, but it feels like a stretch to me.
Fun fact, Jon Rahm has never successfully defended a title on the PGA Tour. He's done it once on the DP World Tour. He won 2018, 2019 Spanish Open. I will say there is kind of a caveat here because one of the titles he did not technically defend. He had a 6-shot lead going into Sunday at the Memorial.
Yeah.
So technically he withdrew.
Legitimate caveat.
big caveat, but I'm just here spitting facts, right? I'm just telling you what is technically true. Who wins, Greg?
This is so close. I'm just going to stick with Finau. I leaned a little more towards Finau than Rahm heading into the week, but largely because of price, right? If you look at like DFS strategy, you got a big discount on Finau. I loved Finau's game coming in. This was that scenario where you put a 1 on the end of it and it looks a whole lot better. And everybody says we saw this coming. I felt like Tony Finau was in that position, trending in the right direction. Thought everything set up really well for him. Again, no reason to count out Jon Rahm, but based on where we sit right now, the one reason I'm counting out Jon Rahm is just because of the 2-shot advantage for Tony Finau. And I think that these two players will push each other tomorrow. And it's almost an advantage for Tony Finau to have Jon Rahm right behind him. I think it's really going to push him and make him continue this aggressive play. And there's no opportunity, there should be no thought in Tony Finau's mind of playing conservative golf, right? He's got to stick to the exact game plan that he's been, and that's the only way he's going to win, because he knows he's got a real heavy hitter behind him, the best player in the world behind him, and I think that pushes him to play a really great round.
Scared to say, but I also think Tony Finau is going to win. He's gained twice as many strokes from tee to green as Jon Rahm has this week. I mean, it's been phenomenal. I mean, he's been better off the tee. He's been better on approach. He's been better around the green. Jon Rahm has gained 4 more strokes with the putter, and Tony Finau. It is not a hot take to say that technically Tony Finau has played better golf than Jon Rahm this week. That's
and beyond the 2-shot lead, right? If you took the names off the board and you just looked at the profile, you'd go Tony Finau 10 times out of 10.
That's right.
Now you put the names back on, and
I'm scared.
It's really scary. But I think we got to stick to our guns here. Again, I go back to this. Tony Finau proved to himself last year that he can handle Sunday pressure. He has won a playoff event on the PGA Tour. This would be his 4th win in a year, less than a year. So I think he's kind of solved that riddle. It doesn't mean it's going to happen every time he's in contention from here on out, but I think the way that he's playing is, worthy of a victory.
One more fun stat before we get out of here. This one courtesy of our very own Patrick McDonald. If Jon Rahm were to win the Mexico Open tomorrow on Sunday, it would become his 5th win of the season. So the most recent 5-win seasons, 2017, Justin Thomas did it. 2015, Jordan Spieth. 2015, Jason Day. 2013, Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Since I'll add to that a little bit, Rick. Yeah. Since 1980, if you take Tiger out of it, there's only been 5 players who have done it.
I'll also add a little bit more to it. JT, Jordan Spieth, and Jason Day all got their 5th win in September. Tiger Woods got his 5th win in August. Jon Rahm would beat May and accomplish it on April 30th if he were to do it.
Yeah, I think even if you go back to 2004 when Vijay Singh won 9 times, most of those were, I think he had 2 wins through Masters. So a lot of his wins came in the summertime and towards the end. So this is This is really, really special stuff for Jon Rahm, obviously. But those 5-win seasons, they don't come very often, unless your name's Tiger. Tiger did it 9 times. Right? So there's been since 1980, there's been 5 players to do it, right? And then Tiger, if you add Tiger, he's the 6th. I think. What would we say? JT, Spieth, Day, VJ, Nick Price in 94. And then Tiger did it 9 times.
God, every stat is this has only happened a handful of times, and Tiger's done it 40 times or whatever.
Right.
Something.
Tiger did it every year he ever played.
Right. Yeah. Tiger never not did it or something stupid. All right. Well, 24 hours from now, we will crown our 2023 Mexico Open champion. And when that final putt drops, maybe a couple minutes after, we'll be here to chat about it. So looking forward to it. For now, big thanks. Producer Josh does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme available on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. And you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.